Assalamualaikum and welcome back to our subject EPDE3113, the Effective Early Childhood Educator. For this week, we will be looking at the topic of teaching to enhance learning and development. So before we go further, let's look at the learning outcome for this topic. So by the end of this unit, you are expected to be able to first to describe what are the teaching strategies that support children learning in science and art. Second, to discuss the importance of play and grouping in planning instruction. Thirdly, to explain how digital tools and media can enhance teaching and learning. And then finally, to demonstrate understanding of children, child-centered and meaning making practices. Okay, so we start first by focusing on the developmentally appropriate practice or DAP. Okay, so apart from DAP in curriculum and lesson planning, okay, we also have DAP in teaching. So what exactly is DAP? Okay, so DAP is a teaching method. Okay, basically that is emphasizing in meeting children where they are. Okay, so we need to meet the children where they are. Okay, so how does we meet the children where they are? Meaning that we need to consider for the age, individual needs, and also social context. So this means that our teaching approach should always be tailored to support each child unique developmental and learning style. Okay, so one key element of the AP is that it encourages active learning and hands-on exploration. So we know that children are naturally curious. So we as the educator, our role is to guide them through this exploration. Okay, rather than merely providing all of the information, standing in front and ask the children to listen. So we want to inspire them to ask questions, explore, and engage with the world around them. Okay, so by adopting this DAP in our teaching, we are creating a nurturing environment where the children can achieve challenging yet attainable goals. So this approach aligns with the guidelines from the NAEYC, which is the National Association for the Education of Young Children, whereby ensuring that our practices are both effective and respectful for each child's journey. Okay, so what are the strategies for teaching science in ECE? So, when teaching science in early childhood education, it is very, very important to create an environment where the curiosity can thrive and hands on experiences are being prioritized. So, first begin by introducing exploration tables filled with all of these sensory materials like sand, water, or magnets. Okay, so we can encourage children to touch, feel, experimenting with all of these items. So with this, it can foster for a sense of wonder and discovery. Okay, next we can incorporate observation journal into the classroom. Okay, so we invite the children to draw or to write about what they see. Okay, so we can ask them to draw about life cycle of a butterfly. So this activity not only enhance children observation skill but also support for their literacy development. And then finally, okay, we need to engage the children in a simple experiment that can actually illustrate basic scientific concept like cause and effect. So for example, okay, we can ask them to explore what object float or what object that sink. So this hands-on approach is aligned with the developmentally appropriate practice which can promote active involvement and also experimentation um, experimentation, ensuring that learning is both meaningful and also enjoyable. Okay, now there are also strategies for teaching art in early childhood education. Okay, so, are also essential part of our early child education because in art it can help to nurture for a self expression, imagination, and also sensory development. Okay, so we are going to see how actually align all of these art activities in early child education with together with developmentally appropriate practice or TAP. Okay, so first we need to focus on the processes of creating art rather than the final product. Okay, so when we focus on the process, this approach can encourage children to explore, experiment, and express themselves without the pressure of producing a perfect pieces. Okay, so second, we need to use open-ended material like paint, clay, recycled object, and also fabric. So this material can invite for children creativity, okay, and offer endless possibility for the children to explore. So by us providing such resources or material, we can actually create an environment that sparks children curiosity and also innovation. Okay, lastly, consider linking this art project to themes or children interests. Okay, for example, you are exploring a zoo theme. Okay, so you might want to encourage children to paint an animal. So this connection not only enhance engagement but also reinforce learning by making it relevant to their work. Okay, allowing children to make creative choices can empower them, foster for their independence and also confidence. Okay, so by integrating all of these strategies, we can actually create for a vibrant, supportive environment where children artistic abilities can actually grow and flourish. Okay, now moving on to the strategies to teach mathematics in early childhood education. So teaching early childhood mathematics should also be engaging and also integrated into their daily activities. So some key strategies that you can include are by using manipulative. Okay, so using concrete object like blocks and beads can actually help the children to visualize the concept. Okay, and then math through play. Okay, so activities such as board games, role play can also reinforce number sense in a fun way. Okay, and also you may incorporating countings in everyday action, whereby this can help to make maths more relevant and understandable to the children. Okay, so incorporate this mathematical into the children daily routines and as well as for their visual representation. So tools like charts, number lines, all of this can enhance children comprehension and retention. Okay, so all of this approach can promote a meaningful and enjoyable learning experiences for young children. Now, to make science and art activity more meaningful in early childhood classroom, consider this following example. Okay, like science activity, art activity. Okay, so from your experiences or observation, okay, you might want to think how can science and art activity in early childhood classroom be made more meaningful and developmentally appropriate. Think about this and give two example and explanation in the strategies. Okay, now moving on to the role of play and instruction. Okay, so first we need to emphasize why play is very crucial, why play is very important. Okay, because play is the central to learning in early childhood education. It's not just fun, it's the fundamental for learning. So play can help in developing language and social skill, which is a very important for them to communicate and interact with other people or their peers or their friends. Okay, so this also help them in their self-regulation as well as their problem solving way. This can help to equip the children to handle a different situation in everyday context. So through play, okay, children can explore real world roles like family and community members or maybe a various jobs. So this exploration, okay, also support for children cognitive flexibility, okay, which will allow kids or the children to adapt to new situation and also build for their emotional resilience. Okay, now let's talk about the types of play. Okay, so we have a free play or child-led play, okay, which this where the kids will have the freedom to create their own games and scenario. So this encourage for creativity and independence. On top of that, a guided play, okay, involve supporting the involve a supportive teacher, okay, who will actually guide the play to enhance the learning outcome, okay, while at the same time maintaining the child interest, while also introducing all of these education um, elements, okay. And then lastly, we have the dramatic or symbolic play, for example pretend play, okay. So this will allow children to experiment with different role and narrative, whereby it can enrich the children understanding of the world around them. So um, play isn't just children time or break from their learning. Okay, play is a very very powerful tools itself. Okay, so let's ensure ourselves as the educator, we will incorporate play effectively in our teaching strategies. Okay, now let's talk about grouping strategies in teaching. Okay, so we will focus on ways to enhance collaboration and learning among children. Okay, group them. So break down, okay, some effective method. Okay, so first, small group instruction. Okay, this will allow us to provide targeted learning experiences in area like maths, literacy, or art. So this approach can help to address specific needs of a child. Second, flexible group. Okay, so flexible group can be formed based on the children interests, skills level, or probably their language ability as well. So this flexibility means that the group can be changed, okay, as the children needs and interests are changing as well. So change it as needs. All right. So finally, there's also peer mentoring. Okay, so peer mentoring, we can include older or more advanced children that can help with their friends. Okay, so more advanced or more older children help the other friends, okay, which will foster for supportive learning environment among the children, okay, where this learning environment will be able to benefits everyone. Okay, so grouping strategies support the TAP by allowing children to work together towards a meaningful learning goals. Okay, so by doing so, we actually promote a sense of community and also shared learning in the classroom. Okay, so incorporating these strategies is actually aligned with Vygotsky theory, okay, whereby he emphasized the importance of social interaction in learning. All right. Now let's look at the digital tools and media in early childhood education. So the integration of digital tool in early childhood education can actually enhance learning when it's being used thoughtfully. For example, include interactive whiteboards for storytelling, or maybe educational apps for literacy and numeracy. Okay, and also digital cameras for them to capture their experiences. So key there are also some key consideration that includes to ensure that the age appropriateness, okay, actively engaging children and also complementing traditional play. So teacher first must guide the use of all of these tools, okay, align them with a specific learning goals and balancing digital as well as non-digital experiences, okay. All right. Now, short question for you all to think about. Okay, so nowadays digital media is becoming more common in early childhood classroom. But what are the benefit and risks of using these digital tools with young children? Okay, and you as the educator, how would you ensure their use remain a child-centered and also meaningful? So think about this. Okay, now let's look into the concept of child-centered approach in early child education. Okay, so a child-centered approach actually put the child at the heart of everything we do. It respects the child's ability, interest, cultural background, as well as their unique learning path. So there are few characteristics to remember. First, learning is guided by the child on interest and curiosity. So this means we follow the child's lead and let them explore what naturally fascinates them. Okay, and then second, teacher will act as the facilitator. So we observe, support, and extend their learning experiences rather than redirecting it. Okay, so this can help children to feel empowered and more engaged. Okay, so third, we emphasize choice and also autonomy. Okay, we support for active exploration. So children should have the freedom to make choices about their learning activities. Okay, so this can foster for independence and self-motivation. And then finally, the classroom environment. Okay, so it should be flexible and responsive as well. Okay, so this can allow to adapt to the children evolving interests and needs. Okay, so this approach align with the developmentally appropriate practice, okay, whereby it can ensure that learning is meaningful, culturally relevant, and suited to each development level as highlighted by the NAEYC. Okay, so in this slide, we are going to look at the concept of meaning making approach. Okay, so what is meaning making in early childhood education? Basically, it's all about children build their own understanding through experiences, social interaction, and also reflection. So it's a dynamic process, okay, whereby the children will actively engage with their surrounding to make sense of the world. Okay. However, to foster this, okay, we can actually include strategies like open-ended question. Alright, so this can actually encourage the children, okay, or the kids to think critically and express their thought through unique ways. Okay, so on top of that, okay, we can ask them to document their learning journey through some drawings, photos, or you can observe their conversation. Okay? Help them to reflect and build upon their understanding. Okay, another tools is project-based learning, also a powerful tools whereby it helps or it can allow them to actually go deeper with their interests, okay, which make their learning also engaging and relevant. Okay, so again, this practice are deeply rooted to the theories of constructivists like Piaget and social cultural theories like Vygotsky and Malaguzzi. So they actually remind us that learning is not just solitary activity, but actually one enriched by social interaction and real life connection. Okay, so these are some of the example, okay, in practice, right? Okay, another question that you can do some reflection. Now, let's look at these two different between child-centered and meaning-making approaches in more visualized way. Okay, so the child-centered approach basically it emphasizes the whole child development and interest. Okay, so this means we are paying attention on how the children grow and what they are curious about. Okay, so in contrast, individualized instruction is focused more, excuse me, specifically on particular child needs, on their abilities. Okay, so in terms of what drive this approach, okay, so the child-centered approach, okay, it's driven by the child's curiosity and engagement, basically what excites them and what makes them wants to learn more. On the other hand, individualized instruction is driven by assessment and the teacher's understanding of each child's needs. Okay, so when it comes to group versus individual learning, the child-centered approach often usually will involve group-based activity that are led by children interests. So this can include project or discussion that everyone can participate in. Meanwhile, for individualized instruction is mostly designed to cater to individual differences, meaning it's specifically tailored for each child. Okay, and then finally, considering the teacher's role, so in child-centered approach, okay, the teacher will act as facilitator, creating all of these meaningful learning experiences based on the child interest. Okay. However, for individualized instruction, the teacher's role is more about designing learning plans that cater to the specific needs of each child. All right. Okay, so for summary, I let you all to read by yourself, and that will be all for our unit this time. Okay, thank you for listening, everyone. Assalamualaikum. Bye.